this is Phil Wills from Following the Nerd, and I'm here with Brian Muir, sculptor from the world of films and television. Brian, pleasure to meet you. How are you? Brian, your resume is unbelievable. I mean, you have worked on films, war pictures such as The Eagle Has Landed, you've worked on Star Wars and New Hope, Alien, most iconic probably would be Star Wars and Alien pictures. Start off with Star Wars. You were heavily involved actually with Star Wars.
Yes, I was actually asked to go on Star Wars in 1976 at Elstree Studios, and was working within the art department. They'd actually set a sculpting workshop up there in a small room, and a plaster shop as well. I was actually asked to do the Stormtroopers to start off with, and started with the Stormtrooper armour. Mm-hmm. Did some work on 3PO when Liz Moore, who had sculpted 3PO, left the film, and I finished it off for her. But then I was asked to do the iconic Darth Vader. What the plasterers did, they took a mould of Dave Prowse and cast him in plaster, and that was my job to actually sculpt on the plaster Dave Prowse, knowing that what I sculpted would fit back onto Dave.
Right. How did you actually, where would you even get the concept? Did you use Ralph McQuarrie's original concept drawings for the sculpting of the mask, or did you have a little input into yourself?
Well, actually, it's a myth that I actually used Ralph McQuarrie's drawings. I used his paintings for the armour, but I was given a small sketch that was done by John Mollo, the costume designer.
Right.
And I did it. It was just from one angle, three-quarter angle, and I worked the mask up from there. So there was a lot of input in the taking it to 3D. Mm-hmm. Again, what I actually did was cut his the plaster model off at the shoulders. You put that onto a modelling stand and started with the mask itself. Mm-hmm. Originally there was a back and a front sculpted and moulded and cast, right. But because it was so claustrophobic for Dave Prowse, they actually discarded the back of the mask and just used the front.
So, was there much room for Dave Prowse after you sculpted? Did you have to make too many amendments from the original sculpt, or was there a lot of you had to sort of tweak it online on the set and such?
No, that was what I had to be very careful to do. That there was never less than a quarter of an inch between my sculpt and Dave, the plaster, Dave Prowse as such, right. So that we knew that there was a casting thickness, and it would never be too tight to fit back onto Dave. So if anything, in places it was loose because you have to get the visual effect of Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. So between Dave's face and the actual mask, that sometimes there were gaps, and other times it would be quite close to his head as such. So there was room in places to put foam and pad it out as such.
Well, did Dave find it comfortable to wear? Obviously shooting would take long periods where you have to wear the mask. was it comfortable for him to wear during those periods after you say you had to put foam in and things to make it more comfortable?
It was not comfortable for him, and we've talked to him about it, and he actually would leave it till the last moment before shooting mm-hmm. to put the mask on. He'd only actually have the mask on through shooting. Obviously he'd have the whole costume, but the mask would be off, and he'd put it on at the last moment just to shoot and then take it back off.
It sounds, the iconic Star Wars, Darth Vader mask is just one of the most instantly recognisable masks probably ever created. You also said there that you were involved in the C-3PO mask, or the C-3PO finishing off the sculpt, sorry. Was the original sculpt more akin to what was originally seen in the 1920s film Metropolis?
I've been told this, and I understand that is the case. Liz Moore actually sculpted the original 3PO, and I just finished it off when she left the picture at the end of January. So I didn't have any real input on the sculpt. A last minute thing were the hands actually on C-3PO. I actually did them on top of Anthony Daniels himself. Oh,
so you created like a mould of Anthony Daniels' hands?
No.
You actually
it was so last moment that they didn't even mould his hands. I sculpted what was actually on 3PO on Tony Daniels' hand. He was there holding his hand out. So I had to do a left and right of that over pretty much a lunch hour. So I didn't get long to do it. And they actually changed the hands on the next film because it was such a last moment. Yeah. I did what I could in the time, but if I'm honest, they weren't that brilliant.
Well, I mean, I think the only time I can remember there's a close-up of the hands is probably whenever he's holding the communicator on the Death Star. But other than that, I mean, the sculpts, particularly Darth Vader's, I mean, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. The helmet itself seems so polished. Were they concerned about getting a reflection from cameras and lighting equipment during the set?
Whether that's what I think on the first one, the A&H, George Lucas wanted everything looking as though it was battle scarred, realistic. Although he changed it on the second one, ESB, everything was painted up and finished so much more. So it probably became more of a problem then. But being that it's a black, material, it was painted black. It probably wasn't too much of a problem.
Well, as I said before, I mean, Star Wars, a great iconic film of the 70s. The next one, Alien. I mean, there's so many different contrasting visuals when you have the work of H.R. Giger, and then you have basically who specifically dealt with the alien spacecraft and the visual look of the alien, and then you had the look of the Nostromo itself. I mean, obviously your work in that film was unbelievable. What parts of it were you specifically involved with Ridley Scott?
Had no involvement with Ridley Scott, but worked very closely with Giger.
Right.
With the space jockey, the set where the space jockey were. The guy that worked on the space jockey with me, a guy called Peter Voisey, very talented. We did that together. He did the eggs that were in that set as well. Together we did the entrances to the alien spacecraft. I did mention the material we worked from,
yes,
which I won't go into.
Yes, I'm aware that that's that sort of material, but the look of the alien spacecraft, I mean, that particular scene in the space jockey, I mean, I remember watching documentaries where Fox Studios couldn't believe the actual amount of work going into this one particular set. That was only going to be on screen for literally basically a few seconds, the full size set, and then I understand they had miniatures, or they were going to work for a miniature, and then they actually built a full scale and actually had children playing the actual parts of the main characters.
That's correct. But it wasn't as big as it originally was going to be. It was cut down. Right. Although it was still a big set that went right around the stage, and the space jockey was in the centre. But it's amazing how quickly we do work in the film industry. The two of us only spent 4 weeks to carve the whole space jockey, which is pretty quick. In fact, I know it's just been recarved for the new Alien picture, and there was a crew of about 6 of them. Took 3 months.
Well, have you been involved in the new Alien picture at all? Obviously, because it's referencing what has gone on before.
I was asked to go on it, but I was out in America, and when I come back, I was asked to go on a film called Dark Shadows with Tim Burton, and I decided to do that one. I was hearing stories of what was happening on the Alien film, and it didn't sound too good, so I stayed away from it.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, Alien being now registered as a true classic of science fiction and horror cinema. Personally, sometimes whenever they redo a film or go back to one many years later, it doesn't capture the same imagination and enjoyment the original audience had. I'd just like to talk very briefly about your other work. I mean, obviously the James Bond franchise. You worked particularly on Octopussy. What was your actual... I mean, by that stage, Roger Moore had well cemented himself in the role of James Bond. I'm sure you probably wouldn't have really worked with Roger Moore, but what was your actual overall memories of working in those sort of films, particularly at Elm Street Studios and of Pinewood Studios at that time?
Yeah. I mean, Octopussy was at Pinewood Studios. We had some lovely work on it. I mean, it wasn't seen that much in the film, but I had a 14-foot crocodile to do that was very realistic. And it's where the mugger actually comes out the window into the moat, and he's actually eaten by the crocodile, and you see it swirling about. So you don't see much of it. The actual crocodile was very realistic. Right. And I do point out that I didn't do the one that actually goes across to the Octopussy Island, where they actually get in as a submarine.
Oh yeah, well Roger Moore sort of...
Yeah, that's an old stock crocodile that they had at Pinewood, and it's not too good, I'm afraid.
But I mean, the other crocodile, I mean, you're saying yourself, and that's probably the greatest of your sort of work. I mean, it's only literally seen on screen for a matter of maybe seconds at a time. And the detail that you put into it, I mean, it's sometimes just amazing. Out of all the films you've ever worked on, I mean, obviously, and television projects as well, what's your most striking memories of it? Obviously, it may be hard to pick down one particular one you enjoy the most, but what's probably your most striking memories from the films?
Well, films I enjoyed working on Indiana Jones. I mean, I had a 15-foot python to do on that. The heart that they plucked out, which was a very strange job to do, really. And as I said to you yesterday, I actually went to Harefield Hospital to see a heart surgeon who invited me to open heart surgery, which I declined. But we settled, the closest heart we could get was a sheep's heart, and I sculpted up detail from that, but had a plastic heart as well, just for reference.
Right. The hearts I actually remember from the Temple of Doom. Unfortunately, it's mostly actually cut out on a lot of the TV screenings, but you actually see the thing actually going on fire. Did you have any work with working with the special effects department on that?
No. I mean, the department's very broken down. It's not like you go onto a project and you go right through the whole project. We do the sculpting side of it, then it's passed on to the mould makers and mould and cast it in rubber. Then it goes on to the special effects department or the painters. They'll paint it. Special effects workers will then go on and do the other. So it goes through a whole system. It has changed there that you've got the animatronic departments that have been used. Where you'll have all those departments under one roof, but that's even changed now because it's all now being done CGI. So it's ever evolving, the film industry and the technical way things are done. But we're still about, so I'm happy about that.
Well, Brian, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing your work in the later years, particularly with the Tim Burton film you just mentioned coming up. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.